Hi and welcome to this week's video. In this video we get some stringers in to make the fuselage look more like a fuselage, and we do one or two other little bits and pieces. So join me, let's get cracking. Well, I've fitted the anchor nuts to these bits of wood here with rivets. Straightforward blind rivets. These are floating anchor nuts, so the nut section there just helps to align quite happily. So that's done. I've drilled holes for most of the positions. Got dust in that one, but all the ones up and down here all drilled through the actual instrument panel itself. So I'm just going to enlarge those to 6mm, and then I can bond in the brass inserts into those holes, and then that'll be the instrument panel blank, effectively set up and ready to go for fitment. There they are, all into their various positions. They just need to have the excess glue sanded off. Now they're all bedded in. I'm just going to wait for that to cure fully. Okay, so I've here on the fuel tank, we've got the blanket on this side, 90° one here, so this is where the fuel comes from, the fuel tap, and we come from the wings to fill the fuel tank, so it goes in here. So each wing, port wing, starboard wing, feeds into the fuel tap, depending which way it's selected. So in the upright position it's off, turn it to the right, fuel comes from the right wing, fuel, turn it to the left, fuel comes from the left wing, down through the centre here, out through this 90°, and through a tube and into here to re-top up the fuel tank. So I've got to make up at some point an indicator. It's going to be one of the simple wire float type coming out the top. When my fuel gets down towards it, getting lower, my initial idea is I'll be drawing fuel from the right wing to top it up, and I'll keep the fuel in the left wing as a reserve, because that should give me about 45 minutes plus of flying time from one wing tank. They're quite small, so just enough to do that. So effectively, once I've sort of flown along and I've dropped my fuel down on the main tank, I can just transfer the fuel from one wing tank into here, and that way I then know how much fuel I've got for the rest of the flight, because the wing tanks haven't got any indicators to how full they are. So each of these couplings has been sealed with a bit of Pro Seal A2 fuel tank sealant, just to seal the threads. And there's the mixture control knob section put in. This is a vintage style choke knob, I suppose you can sort of describe. It's a partial twist to unlock. You can lock it in any position you like. T-handle one, it was about that long on the T, and I've cut it down so it's just a nice size, so it'll be able to be operated. The reason for going for T rather than just a standard sort of round choke type knob is it's easier to handle with gloves on. As this is an open cockpit aircraft, I'll probably be flying with gloves on. Oh, there's the instrument panel blank completed. All I need to do now for that is to start working through cutouts and things for the instruments, and start fitting instruments in, or making the holes so the instruments will fit in. Okay, so I've got a piece of wire going to the stringer support this end, and that end there held, and it's reasonably tight. And then, not quite C-sharp, but it's tight enough, and that'll allow me to do the mark. Right then, so what I've done is I've got tape going across. There's 3 layers of tape. That's just to help stabilise it, doesn't sort of like stretch too much when I transfer it and things. I've marked on where this cross piece is. I've marked the centre line. I've already done all the measurements for the other side. I'm just going to show you on this one how I deal with it. So this rule is 2mm thick. So what I do, I'm just sticking that across, just so there's just a little lip of that tape showing. And this is all measured back from the pilot's bulkhead, so we know that the height is appropriate. Also the distance is appropriate and equal on both sides. So I'm now using 2 squares, 1 square on top of the rule, the other one, just dropped a little packer, another one that's on cross member and the top of the rule. That makes sure everything is square vertically. I'll just move this lot so it's near the front edge of that rule, and I move it out until it just touches that wire and stops it from shaking around. That means I know where it is. I can now mark on my tape where we're at, and I can take a measurement, which in this case is 61mm. So take those out of the way. Where that mark is, I can now just make that marker a bit more prominent, and I put on there 61mm. You'll note I've drawn a line sort of at 45 degrees, so we've got sort of the majority of the grain is actually going that way, and we've got one laminate going that way. The reason for doing that is it actually makes the frame stiffer for when we actually fit it, because we've had the majority of grain going one way, it flex in that direction and be stiff in the other. I need it to be sort of stiff in both. So the first thing I've got here is I've got my my piece of tape, and you'll see I've drawn 2 lines. This one is 10mm, or actually near a ½ inch, but 10mm down, and that's to give me a section to cut down to. So I've got a joint to the longerons and to the cross piece, and I'm just going to double check that I've got the measurement going from one side to the other as being the same as I've measured there. So it should be 577, which it is. So no stretch at the moment, which is good. It's all great. I'll just move that so it is actually on that line. I'll double check again. Measure twice, cut once, as I say. Yep. So this is the outside of the longeron. That would be the inner face of the longeron. Now I'm just going to look at all my measurements going across here. So that says 63 and that's 63, so we're okay there. 63, that says 121, 122, 121. I'll go for the slightly lower figure, so I'll go 121. 170 and 168, so we'll go 169. And then 197 and 198, we'll go for 197 on both sides there. And this one is the 210, which is the actual height for the centre section. So I'm just going to, that is on the centre line. I'll just double check that the measurement makes it on the centre line. So yeah, that's spot on, that's good. So the centre is in the same position, so I'm just going to try to get it so that the pencil line lines up with the actual bit there. So that's our centre, and on 210. that is the base for the top stringer, which is lovely. Now I'm just going to measure each side of the centre line to make sure I've got the average there. It's the same as on both sides, so let's have a little look. We've got 55, 63 and 63. So make sure we've got right, lovely 63, 63, which is good. Yeah, that's that. Oh, let's mark in that. Those lines there, that's where the cross member goes, and we said 97, so I'll put that thing there, and draw straight up, and 197. So I'm just now having done all the marks going around, I'm just using a compass. I'm just drawing an arc from each of those points, which matches the width of the stringer section. So I'm using that as the radius of this arc. The idea is that I can do a fair round the whole setup, and that should, in theory, it says, allow me to know where the outside is, where that matches, and then I can draw from where it touches the arc going around the outside through that point, and that will be the angle at which the stringer will be sitting. So there's the arc going around the outside, and what we do now is I'm just going to go in, so I've got 2/3 of the distance. So there's the arc drawn. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go where this makes contact here nicely. Go from there to that lower section. I will draw that down so I can actually see where it is, and then when I do the one on the other side, I'll make sure I've set that distance across from the centre line the same. So that's 28 millimeters. 28 millimeters. If I go through from there to that one at the 28 millimeter mark, I'll have the same angle for the slot, and then we're going to go for 2/3 of the thickness of the stringer, so that's 1/2 inch, and that will be my mark. So this will be the slot there, 1/2 inch by the width of that, and I'll redraw the curve there, and I'll cut that to loss out using a jigsaw. Okay. I've cut literally just straight lines across each of these. The stringers will sort of sit in line with that lot from there to there, and so the covering won't actually be able to make it down onto the frame. So I will make sure the edges are smooth. I think I might have not recorded the fact that there's an adjustment going out on these lower 2 stringers on each side to allow for the fact that the fuselage bows as it goes back in. It's not a straight line, so that's 8 millimeters further out, and this one here is 18 millimeters further out, and that was just derived by putting a piece of wire straight along the fuselage at those points and seeing how much curve there was there, and just modifying it 1.5 inches in from the bottom of the stringer, so 2 inches in from the outer edge. And I'm just going to mark go around here, that, and then I'll do a faired curve. Right then, so the frames, it's all dry fitted at the moment, so I've just dry fitted the frames into position and made up the stringers just for one side at the moment, just to confirm that everything is going to be running nice and straight. So if we look up there, the stringers aren't too far out. I only took a small adjustment to get that stringer right with the just elongated the slot, enlarged the slot very slightly on the rear former, and I've just put a little wedge in there at the moment just to hold the thing down. It's talking about less than a 32nd of an inch, I should think, because that piece of plywood there is a 1/16th, so that's how much I chopped it. That makes it all good. Now I just need to make up the other stringers. Okay, there we have it. We've got the frames bonded in and the stringers on both sides all in place. These are just here just to stop the make sure that the frames will stay nice and straight, no flex or bow in them. Okay, so this is the ply going over the back end. I've already used a compass just to mark down to get roughly the line for where the bulkhead section is. That will be amended a little bit later, but because of that I could then set up so I've got equal distance front to rear all the way, and I'm now marking on the stringers and the fuselage side where that's going to be. This, because of the taper, is actually a curve shape, so it's not as easy and straightforward as you might think. It sort of curves as a sort of crescent, sort of going like that to be able to wrap around here. I'll sand the stringers, get this to fit nicely, and then I'll reconfirm the rear line here so that we've got a nice parallel section there for the aluminium to sit in, and down here it'll be, the outer skin will be tapered so that this will sit flush. Once it's all bonded in, I'll actually sand the ply, this section of ply, flush with this side skin. That way we'll end up with a nice smooth transition. See how I've sanded in that sort of step there to accept the thickness of the ply all the way up here and into the side skin here. Well, I've scalloped the front edge of this bit of ply now. That's all nicely in place. I'm now starting to work on the lower fin rib. I'm departing quite a chunk from the plan. On the plan it just has one rib at this point here going back, and then you've got the metal closing panel, which is going to go against fluttering covering, or the covering could be fluttering, one might say. And I'm also planning to just put a couple of fixings into the metal strip to stop it from being able to flutter backwards and forwards, and I wanted to have a decent bond area for the covering. So this is going in. It's going to have a couple of little vertical spacers for the thread inserts to go into, and then the whole face of this on both sides is going to be covered with 32nd plywood. There we have it. That's the sort of double rib that's now in. As I said, let that cure. It needs to be varnished inside all over, and then 32nd ply section put over it, and that will be effectively the fin complete, ready to cover. Well, that's it for this week. We've got the stringers in, we've got the rear section sorted out for the stringer mounting, that little ply section, and we've got the rear fin rib being bonded up. So I think we can say we've been fairly productive. So let's see what we get up to next week. Bye now. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the thumbs up. You can subscribe or even hit the little bell notification for future videos. Any comments would be appreciated and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. Remember, go fly and feel the sky.